Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Justin Bizzarro, or you can find us at Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs, both online, and justinandthefoodentrepreneurs.com on Podbean. So take a look. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. For those of you who are just listening in for the first time, my background is in the food business and the beverage business. I've had multiple companies, still run multiple companies in the food business. We have over 380 employees as a company, and we handle well over $1 million in management of food, $100 million, in managing of food. So why we're doing the podcast is we're sort of wanting everyone to tell their stories, and food entrepreneurs help other food entrepreneurs, beverage entrepreneurs help other beverage entrepreneurs, sort of just through telling the stories of what everyone's going through. So we're on episode 127, pretty impressive, 127 episodes in less than a year. And today, we'll be interviewing Dennis Poindexter from Uncle Rockers BBQ from Virginia. How are you doing today, Dennis?
I'm doing very well today, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it's Spencer from Spencer's Jerkin' Jerky, in case anyone remembers those episodes, is recommended you be on the show. So he's been on 2 episodes and spoke very highly of you, so it was a no-brainer.
Well, that's really great to hear, and Spencer's done a lot of stuff with me over the past couple of years, and I'm excited to see that he's doing so well with his company.
So, I mean, Dennis, you obviously you're running a barbecue company, but tell us a little bit about your background and how you sort of got into this food entrepreneurial space.
Well, that's a great and interesting question. I am an engineer by trade. I've worked in the communications industry throughout my entire career, spanning over 20 years. And I worked with Verizon, for the past 15 years. And then 3 years ago, they laid me off. And I decided, I started asking myself, what am I going to do? How am I going to do something, and support myself and do something that makes me happy all the time? So over the years, people have been telling me how great my barbecue was, and because I'd done several parties and community events, people were telling me that I should go into business. So at that time, that's exactly what I decided to do. I decided to incorporate myself, and it came up with a name and a logo, and just started selling barbecue here locally in Loudon County.
Well, and so how did you come up with the name Uncle Rockers BBQ? I mean, what's the brains behind all of that?
So it's really interesting. So the foundation and the idea for the company is all based on family members and close friends throughout the years. So Uncle Rockers comes from a name or a nickname that I've had since high school. They used to call me Rockhead because I was stubborn and just a bullheaded guy. And my best friend Jose has always called me Rock or Rocker over the years. And I've known Jose for 35 years. And 5 years ago, he had a son. And Hunter, to this day, calls me Uncle Rocker. So when I was developing the name, I wanted to come up with something that was unique and family-oriented and something that would speak to who I was and where I came from. So it sounded to me like a perfect name.
Well, and I love it. And I just want the audience, if you want to find Uncle Rockers BBQ online, it's literally just Uncle Rockers, how it's spelled, UNCLEROCKERS BBQ.com. And you can find Dennis on there and his company on there. And I really love the logo, and I want to describe it to everyone because it's basically a pig on a rocking chair playing his electric guitar, and in the one hand is sort of the oven mitt. And I love what you've done with it. I actually really like the logo. So sort of how did you create that? I mean, Is it you went to someone or you've had an idea in your head?
Kind of a little bit of both. So I had an idea in my head that I wanted to have something in the logo that was pig themed. So my girlfriend at the time, her name was Angela, and she had a sister, her name was Kim, and Kim was a graphic artist. So Kim and I sat down and collaborated over the course of about 2 months, and we came up with the idea. We had several different variations, but the one that you see as the logo is the one that we decided on, and the one that I fell in love with. And I'm particularly proud that you mentioned the oven mitt, because that was kind of a telltale sign of kind of what we do as far as handling hot stuff.
Well, and so, okay, let's talk about this more. I mean, now you've decided to do this. You're making a business out of it. Tell me about how you developed a menu, how you came up with the way you do your service. I mean, explain the whole picture. I mean, you do catering, and you focus on that, but explain to me your whole theory and your idea behind the business and what your business model is.
My business model right now is to provide the best barbecue using anywhere to be found, using locally sourced ingredients that I get here from vendors and farms that are local to me. The idea comes from so I've cooked my whole life, my entire life. The first thing I learned how to cook was scrambled eggs with my grandpa when I was 7 years old. So ever since then, I've loved to cook. But I particularly have always loved the idea of people being outside, gathered around a fire, smoke in the air, just having a wonderful time. And that scene has always, in my mind, has always been very strong to me. It takes me back to family gatherings and cookouts and things of that nature. So when I was trying to figure out what I was good at, it seemed like a natural thing because I had always, over the years, had cooked barbecue. My skills have evolved over the years, and I've gotten better and better. And it finally came to a point where people know this. So I came up with different ideas from watching different cooking shows. Like I grew up watching Justin Wilson and Jacques Pepin and those guys, and I always loved it when they would do the grilling. So that's really where it comes from. My recipes have evolved over time just from trial and error, really, and using things that I like that people have commented on to where they like what I'm doing. So it's interesting because I have 3 different rubs that I use, and I've developed 4 different sauces as a result of all of this.
And so tell me about those. What are the rubs and the sauces?
So I have a rub that I use for all of my briskets and all of my beef, and it's called Uncle Rockers Big Bad Beef Rub, and it's perfect for using on any kind of beef cut or brisket. I especially use it for my brisket, but it's got a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of cayenne, and a couple other things in there that I can't tell you about. I have another rub called my famous Big Butt Rub, Uncle Rockers Big Butt Rub, and I use that for specifically my ribs. So I have a special rib recipe that I use this rub on. It's got a little bit of sugar, a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of paprika, salt and pepper, and again, a couple other things that I really can't tell you about that are secret to me. But it provides a wonderful, deep and rich flavor throughout the ribs. And really, we try not to use it with any sauce because the flavor is so good. The third rub that I have is a poultry rub that has a little bit of oregano and parsley and onion powder, garlic pepper, and again, a couple other things I really can't tell you about, but makes all your poultry and fish dishes just come out just delicious and wonderful. And
so tell me a little bit about, how do we can people order those sauces and the rubs? Is it something you're developing to take to market? Where can people find them online?
We're going to start selling them online starting next month. We're also going to start selling our sauces online next month, and those are really what we're going to be pushing. I have 4 different types of sauce as well that we're going to be featuring in our online store. I have a Kansas City rub that is a typical Kansas City style rub that we use. My version of it. It's made with honey and a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of apple juice, a little bit of paprika, and a couple other things that I can't tell you about that just makes your barbecue just wonderful. And we call that Bubba's Bold and Sweet Rub. And that is our house sauce, and it is our most famous sauce that we do. And that sauce is actually named after my youngest. His nickname is Bubba, so I figured that would be a neat name for my feature sauce, because I do love him so much. So, and I love barbecue too. So, my second rub is named after my grandmother. It's called Gigi's applesauce. So, it is a barbecue sauce made with apples and honey and a little bit of vinegar and brown sugar in there to give it a sweet and tangy taste all at the same time. We have a South Carolina style sauce that is named after one of my best friends that is no longer with us, one of the original believers in Uncle Rockers BBQ. His name was Timothy Quisenberry, and we call him Quiz. So Quiz's golden barbecue sauce is a South Carolina style barbecue sauce that has a little bit of mustard, a little bit of brown sugar, honey and vinegar in there. So it's tangy and sweet all at the same time. So it's very delicious and very, very tangy all in one bite. And it's very delicious on poultry as well. So the final sauce we have is Carolina style sauce, and we call that one Rockin' the Shack. And it's your typical North Carolina style sauce made with a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of vinegar, and red pepper flake for the tang. So those are our 4 sauces, and I'm super proud of them, and I'm proud that we're going to be able to start featuring them in our online store in the coming months.
Well, and I think that's pretty awesome. And I mean, so are you using a co-packer to put those together for you?
I am currently researching co-packers to perform it on a mass scale, but right now it's all me, myself, and I.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and we do a lot of co-packing in our business, so you've got to start somewhere before you can go that direction and start getting sales in. Usually, unless you have money sitting around just to sit on inventory, which not many people want to do, and take money out of their business and growth and marketing to do that and put it into a product that may not move. But so let me understand that you do the catering thing, and now a natural progression from there is to sort of get into these sauces and these rubs for the public, which I love the idea. I mean, you can't cater all over the United States, but what you can do is sell your sauces and your rubs all over the United States. So that's sort of the goal there, I would assume.
That is correct, and that's the idea, and that's the kind of the new model that I want to pursue. I always want to do the catering, and I always want to stick with serving my food to the weddings and the corporate events and everything that we do. But I also would like to reach a wider market. I would like to reach the dad and the cousins that are cooking barbecue in their backyard. And I would love to have them use Uncle Rockers rubs and sauces to do so.
And I think that's a great idea, and I think it's a natural progression for your business. Is now they work. What better way to test if they work by doing the catering events? So people like them. You're getting real feedback at real events, and so they work. So now it's just a matter of bringing them to the industry, starting to use word of mouth to get them out to everyone else. So I think it's a great model. So Dennis, let me ask you a question, because you said you're an engineer by trade, I believe.
I did.
And so you're neither a businessman, or entrepreneur by background, or a chef by background. So, what are some of the things in both of those areas that you've sort of had to learn from? What are some of the hardships? What are some of the things you've learned from not having a background in either one of those?
Oh my goodness, there's so many lessons learned. And one of the things that I say all the time, since I've started running this company, is that I'm a great barbecue cook and I can do it in my sleep and I'm excellent at it, and people love it. But the hard part about running the business is actually knowing the part about running the business. So the lessons for me, as far as that goes, are how much interaction you need to do with regulatory and keeping up with making sure that all of your paperwork is straight and all of your insurance is straight and all of your accounting is straight, and all of those things are things that I had no idea about, but I'm quickly learning about. As far as the cooking goes and being a chef goes, or not being a chef by training goes, I do have over 40 years of cooking barbecue in one various form or another. My sister-in-law would tell you that when I first started, I wasn't really so good because she watched me burn a hamburger, black on the outside, pink on the inside. So to this day, she makes fun of me and makes me humble in that way. But I will say that judging how much to prepare for any given job has proven to be a challenge, because in some events, people order for a certain amount of people, whether it be 100 or 200 people, and we can gauge for that. But if we're doing an event where we're at, let's say, a winery or a brewery, then it's kind of hard to judge, the foot traffic that's going to be in there and how many people are going to show and how much product am I going to have to buy, how much am I going to waste because not that many people came, or I sold out because I didn't make enough. It's all in trying to hit that perfect sweet spot so that you're not doing any unnecessary work or wasting any unnecessary product as well. So that's what been a lot of the lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, and I think food waste is one of the hardest things to manage, right? In the food business.
It really is. It really, truly is. I've thrown away after various events so much stuff that just makes me sad, because a lot of times you can't use it again, and that it's perfectly good, but because the event's over, you can't resell it. You can't really do anything with it. So having to forecast that and to hit the numbers so that you don't do that is a real challenge.
So, one of the things that I think is, if I come to you and I'm like, Dennis, I'm really looking to start XYZ barbecue company, let's argue, or not barbecue company, catering company. Let's say it's, I don't know, I'll make up something. I'm going to do Mexican catering. What would be the advice that you would give me?
My advice would be to talk to as many people that are doing the same thing that you want to do as possible. The advice, the stewardship, and the mentorship that I've learned or that I've gained throughout the years in talking to some of the people that do the same thing. When I first had the idea to do Uncle Rockers has been invaluable to me. The idea for Uncle Rockers has been a 15-year idea, but it only came to fruition a couple of years ago with the situation with Verizon. So during that time, I've attended a lot of barbecues and talked to a lot of people that do barbecue. There are a couple of people that really stick out in my mind. This guy, Susie, from Susie Q's Catering in Maryland, is a particular example to me. One of the original people that told me that you have the skills and you have the ability to do this. And this is the way that I do it. It doesn't make it right, but this is how I do it. So I always remember that. And that's one of the ones as far as mentors and people that have inspired me, that has really allowed me to have the courage to do this.
And I really want to talk about that, because I think mentorship is just so important in any business relationship or any growth in any field in particular. Absolutely. And so, if you were to really hone in on that and talk about mentorship and recommend it to someone, if someone came to you and said, Dennis, you said, you mentioned this thing on the podcast about mentoring, what are the benefits of it that you think are so important?
Some of the benefits that are so important is it allows you to get a perspective of how things should be done from someone that is currently doing what you want to do. I had a guy that runs a place called the Pit Stop, and it's a famous barbecue spot here in Loudon County. And he's been there for a very long time. He's got all kinds of rewards. He's been written up in the paper. Again, when I was, and it said this place called Gilbert's Corner. There's always people lined up. So about 10 years ago, when I was having this idea that I was thinking about doing my own company, I got the courage up to go and talk to this guy. And he spent about 4 hours with me, walking around his rig, walking around his setup, explaining, how he does things, explaining why at that time it was better for him to have a spot on the side of the road as opposed to a brick and mortar restaurant, and just giving me advice about those kinds of things. So in talking to people like that, it allowed me to formulate and to think about my model of the business and how I wanted to run my business the way that I wanted to, using the ideas that those guys had as a baseline. The thing about mentorship is it does give you ideas, and it does give you a baseline, and it does allow you to aspire to achieve what you want to do.
Absolutely.
And it also stops you from making mistakes. If by talking to people, it can, they all, a lot of times say, this is where I went wrong. This is what I did. Don't do this. That kind of thing. So it's a two-headed thing, and it's beneficial in both ways to me. Well, and I would recommend that to anyone, that is starting out or even is currently doing it, to talk to people that do the same thing you do. Talk to people that inspire you, that have been doing it for a long time and are successful at it, because the little nuggets and tidbits that they give you can absolutely help you and help you to grow your business. I know that it has with me in mind.
And I want to extrapolate on that, because I think there's a couple of things that are so important to what you said, which is, one is getting into a business. Learning it yourself is hard. You're still going to have to learn things yourself and go through your own experiences, but finding someone that's already been through it can certainly help guide you through that and not make as many mistakes, and they can accelerate your learning curve and accelerate the business curve to where you get to break even and where you get to a little more successful and where you can grow your business. The second part of it is if you find the right mentors, you want to outgrow them, because they want to give you you want to get all their knowledge possible, and then you want to grow a level further, which means
Correct.
In that you should always be making sure that you're looking for not just one mentor, but you're always looking for mentors that can help you stand up and go to that next level and grow, So, in my own life, I've had mentors. I've had mentors in the food business, mentors in our own company who've been in the food business or in the food production business longer than I have. But then, they've been great. But something happens, it's like a Jedi movie. It's like Star Wars. Yoda says to Luke Skywalker in the last Star Wars that, it's great when the master is outgrown by his disciple.
By the pupil, right?
Yeah, by the pupil.
The master. That's right.
That's what you want, because that's the only way we continue to grow forward. There'd be no point in growing to the level that everyone's at. Then there's no point in giving back. You want to give back so that person grows beyond you and takes the skills to the next level. And I think that's hugely important. I think anyone who wants to be a mentor, you really need to keep that in mind. It's not, it's not about competition. It's how can I better the next generation, or how can I better this person because it's the right thing to do, and maybe I might learn something from them too. I think
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's one of the great things that I've learned and I've experienced by being a barbecue guy, because you would think that everybody would be very protective and competitive, of their skills and knowledge. But I've found that it's the complete opposite. It's such a great community. Everybody wants to share and to grow and to have camaraderie and to see everyone else grow and represent this thing that we do.
Well, and it's surprising, a competition, one, is good for any business because there's multiple people in it. But the second thing is mentoring someone, like, you're not going to do it exactly how they are, and they're going to differentiate. And the only way to differentiate is learn how the best that are doing it now are doing it, and then differentiate from there based on what's true to you and authentic to you. And that becomes your business, because you're the face of the business. In most food businesses, no matter how big and large you are, there's a face to it. And I'm not talking like Kellogg's or Nestle anymore. When you're that huge, I'm talking about more like the restaurants and the food production and the smaller packaging, or the sauces that you're talking about. You're the face of it. So your differentiator most of the time is you and your spirit. And obviously you want a good product, but having those mentors to show you what they're doing allows you to also start to get creative and differentiate yourself.
That is correct. And that is also getting back to differentiating myself as far as, my barbecue goes. You asked me earlier, how did I come up with some of the ideas for my, recipes and rubs? I have a library of about 300 books that I've read on barbecue over the years, from, the Myron Mixons, the Chris Hunts, the Chris Hurts, Stephen Raikling, all of those guys. So I've taken a lot of the ideas that they've had and kind of made my own thing, which ties into exactly what you're talking about as far as that mentoring thing. Even though they weren't mentors in a physical portion, in a mental in a way they were. So taking some of the stuff and some of the tips and some of the ideas that they've had in reading their ideas and thoughts has shaped my own thought process and coming up with my own ideas for rubs and sauces as well.
Well, and I love the point you just made, is the reading part. And anyone who's out there, whether you're food business or what, you've got to read. There's no other way to learn it. I know a lot of people watch videos on YouTube and it teaches you things, but there's
Correct.
Something about actually reading the words on a page in terms of the way the human mind works to educate us on what we're trying to do. And we need to do that. If you're interested in being a food entrepreneur, you need to study what it is that you're going to do. You're not just going to be great at it. That doesn't mean you can't differentiate or you're not going to disrupt some business or food or whatever that's out there. But you need to have an understanding of actually what's out there. Or, if you want to be in business and you're unsure, read a book. I try to read at least a book a month, if not a book a week, just because I need to be constantly learning. And I don't know it all. And the world changes at such a rapid rate right now that trying to stay up with it is pretty important. And I think the reading part that you said, that you're a student of barbecue, you're a lifetime student of barbecue.
That I am.
And I think that's so key, because a lot of people get into business and they forget about the educational piece. They get into food and they open the restaurant, and they forget to keep educating themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've found that it's a constant learning thing, running a business. There is so much that I don't know that I'm continuing to learn. As I said before, I cook some of the best barbecue you've ever had in your life. Hands down, I know that. People tell me that all the time, and I appreciate that. Again, the thing goes back to learning how to gain the skills necessary to have a successful and viable business. And those are the things that I've been focused on and have been consistently learning about.
And so that being said, I mean, what motivates you and inspires you on a daily basis?
I really love it when people are happy. Have you ever seen anybody mad around barbecue?
That's true.
I mean, really, have you ever seen anybody mad around barbecue? No. So that's one of the things I love, making people smile and making people happy with the food that they eat. The barbecue that I eat, the love and the passion that I put into it really makes me happy. A lot of people ask me, why don't I do a lot of competitions as far as going out and winning trophies? To me, that's not really important to have trophies and to be recognized like that. To me, the payoff and the great thing and the great thrill that I get from serving my barbecue to people when I'm out at events or doing catering is the smile that they get. And when they say, my goodness, Dennis, or my goodness, Uncle Rocker, that was some great barbecue. And that is the thing that makes me happy.
And I think that's important, is that so important that the customer have that experience and enjoy what they have. And winning a trophy is a very small group of people awarding it, and it is something that people can be proud of, and I did this, and it helps promote a brand. But at Absolutely. The end of the day, the same amount of time put into feeding 300, 400, 500 people at an event, and the word of mouth that has, the dollars just go a lot further because you're able to have people taste it. So I agree with you. I think the experience of doing it is, there is awards for sure in any type of business or food business, but I think to your point, I agree with it a lot. I think recognition for the people that recognition matters for is important. But in your case, what matters is people's happiness and level of response to good food and sort of the love. I mean, it's a loving nature that happens. It's one of the reasons I love food, and no matter how many things I start to stray off the food or go into a business that's not exactly food oriented or invest in one, it never really catches me like food because of the happiness food brings to people and the mm-hmm. loving nature of it. And so that's pretty crazy. I mean, obviously you want to worry about food safety and things like that so you don't harm anyone. But absolutely. But it's so much love and care around food. So I think that's pretty amazing.
It really is. And it's funny that you mentioned food safety because you do have to be, and this is one of the things I didn't know, is you have to be licensed by the health department to actually serve out at events and everything like that. So, one of the partners that I've partnered with is here locally in Loundon County is a place called Chefscape, and they have a great idea, and we need to get them onto your podcast because their story is amazing. But they have an idea for a shared kitchen where small businesses such as mine that do catering and things like that can have a full commercial kitchen, health department inspected, to serve the community and have the stamp of approval from the health department. So that's one of the things that I've also learned and has also helped me in my business is to find great partnerships. And that's just one of them that I have. I'm so proud and honored to be a part of those guys because it's also allowed me to grow.
Well, and I love that. I think that the more of the community that gets involved and the more opportunities, the more people that have sort of that, I don't know, for lack of a better term, incubator model of helping people grow and give them the space to grow and provide that, the better off we are. And we are living in a world now where people's, before, I'll give an example of coffee, or even let's just use barbecue. Before, everyone liked certain types of barbecue sauce. I think there was probably Heinz barbecue sauce and Sweet Baby Ray's and maybe someone
Open
else's.
Pit from back in the day, right?
Yeah. You had like 3 sauces. Well,
that's right.
Guess what's happened? People realize that they can have more of a choice, and they can get really, molecular, for lack of a better term, down to the minuscule details of the sauces that they like. So now there's more varieties. Why? Because we as human beings realize we can have more of that variety. And as more of that happens and we become more individualistic in our likes and our wants, having more options is what's happening in business. And so there's more opportunity for food entrepreneurs to find space amongst all of this. Microbreweries are a great example. There were how many breweries around the country 50 years ago, and now there's how many microbrews across the country? Because people cater to specific tastes now.
That's exactly right, and it's amazing, and it's interesting that you mentioned the breweries and the wineries, because here in Loudon County they have grown exponentially over the past couple of years, and so there's you can throw a rock and hit a brewery, you can throw a rock and hit a winery out here. So we've been doing a lot of those, and a lot of partnering with a lot of those guys to get food out there, and it's just everywhere, and it's all dependent on that variety and giving people an option and a choice to have different styles, different flavors, different manufacturing techniques, anything and everything that makes a person's palate they can have, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, I think that's actually super, super important for people to have. I mean, why not? And to make it available in the Amazons in the world, and we're sort of flattening the world, but also giving people the ability to really choose what they want. If I'm living in Loudon County now and I love Uncle Rockers BBQ, but then I have to move to, Colorado Springs, Colorado, for example. Since I'm out of Denver, that's the example I'm going to use. I can now order your barbecue sauces and your rubs online over, coming in the next few months. And so, that's where we get to take it with us. That's the world we live in. It's in co-packaging and labeling and the education process and nutritional labels and all of that, and the resources.
All of that. That's correct. Yeah, that's. Speaking of learning things, we've got all of our licensing and our labels, and all of our nutritional labels are ready to go. We just need to start production. But the process of gaining all of those things, of gaining all of the rights to have the ability to use those, is a lot of paperwork and a lot to learn. So it's one of the things that I've also learned. Again, going back to, there's a lot to learn and a lot to know about the administrative side of running a business.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. So when you cater events, Dennis, how do you find employees and people to help you with the events? I mean, that's because it's not a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing, I can imagine. So are they sort of temporary, or how does that all happen?
So all of the people that work with me, and they all work with me and not for me, they all like to call me the boss, but I'm not the boss. I'm just, a guy that just happens to run the show. So all of the people that work with me all have, day jobs, and they all do, their own thing. So, I've got engineers and bartenders and car mechanics and FedEx guys, that all work for me. I have as many as 20 people that I can call in to do an event at any one time. Typically, I don't need that many. So when I need someone, we typically forecast about a month in advance. I start to, game who's available, who's not. We put them on the calendar, we lock them in, and, we go do the event. And luckily, we haven't really had any headaches or hiccups doing that. Everyone that I've chosen to be a part of my team is wonderful, and they're very flexible and great. And whenever I need them, be it on the weekends or for an office party during the week, out of that pool of 20, there's always someone that can lend a hand for, those couple hours.
And I think that's awesome. And the loyalty there from those people to just come whenever you need them, I think is pretty amazing.
Yes.
And it's really cool and to build that relationship. And I'm going to refer back to 2 episodes ago, which we interviewed Reggie Kelly, who's also doing barbecue sauces and salsas out of Atlanta. But one of the things, he's a former NFL player, and one of the things he said that he learned in the NFL is they always say that teamwork makes the dream work. And what you're doing is exactly that. It's the teamwork that makes the dream work, and your humility to say, hey, this may be my company, but I'm not the boss. We're a team, and we need to do this together, sort of flattens that, decentralizes things where everyone feels they have ownership in what's going on and really matter for the outcome.
And that's one of the things that I pride myself on as far as that relationship goes. I genuinely love all the people that have helped me out, because without them, I would have not been able to get as far as I have. Yes, I can cook the food all day long. But for anybody that knows barbecue, it takes, 14, 18, 20 hours, depending on what you're doing. So by the time you cook and then you go to serve and set up and break down and do all those things, it's exhausting. It's a lot of work. So you have to have people that you can rely on to do those things. And I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to have a team of people that do that for me.
Well, and we've been talking about this in our company at Food Service Partners, as well as how do you getting people to really go the extra mile, because you're right. Well, it could be 14 hours, but sometimes things go wrong and it takes 17 hours. So how do you get people to go that extra mile or that extra hour or motivate them and inspire them to do it? And a lot of it has to do with the culture you create, from day one.
From day one.
And if it's not there, you better start figuring out how to create it now, or take what's there and build upon it, because, what you're doing, Dennis, is exactly that. You've built a culture for those people to come in and take pride in what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Without Spencer, without Travis, without Emily, without Janae, without all of those people, Eric and Kelly, that have helped over the time, I would not have been able to do it to this level so far. Even though I'm still small time, hoping to get big time, it's still a team effort, and I still really am thankful to have those guys associated with the company.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big deal. I think it's what you're doing is a good thing, and I think the growth for your company is a good thing, and I think the way you treat your employees, and this is not a think, this is something I know, the better you treat them and the better culture you give them, the more successful your business becomes over the long run, and it's exactly what you're doing, and I really think it's so cool what you're doing. So, not many people would go get laid off from a job and sort of be like, I'm going to go in the food business and really make a run at it and still be doing it all these years later. A lot of people give up the hardship, it's too hard, or I got myself over my head, but you've become a student of it, which I love, the reading, the books, the diving into it and doing it, taking something that you were passionate about and taking it to the next level, which I think is just so key. So, Dennis, as we wrap up here, I would love to get you back on the podcast here now that you've gotten your first one over with, maybe in the next few months, to continue to tell your story and hear how the barbecue sauce and the rubs go. But as we finish off, is there anything that you want to tell the audience, or that you feel that would be really beneficial to someone who is trying to start their own business? I
would say to anyone that wants to start their own business is to believe in yourself. Believe with all that you are that you can do what it is that you set out to do. It's going to be hard. There is going to be a lot of roadblocks. People are going to tell you no. Money's going to run out. Situations are going to be tight. Things are going to be tough. But if you stick with it and you truly believe, then it will happen. And that's what I believe. And that's what I would tell anyone.
And I love it, Dennis. I think you've got it spot on, because that belief also helps you sell your vision to your customers, sell your vision to your employees, and keep the ship moving forward and staying afloat and growing and all of that. So I think you're 100% spot on, and I really appreciate your time for sure.
Well, Justin, I really appreciate you taking the time to to interview me and to talk with me and to learn a little bit more about Uncle Rockers BBQ. And it really has been a pleasure. And I would love to do this again. And I look forward to it.
Awesome. Anyone in the audience, thank you guys for listening in. Again, you can find Uncle Rockers BBQ online. That's unclerockersbbq.com online. And reach out to them on Instagram and Facebook. They have great sites. You really get a feel of who Uncle Rocker is or Dennis is by looking at that stuff. And if you're in Virginia, I recommend going to try the barbecue, as well as, Dennis will talk more next time on, the sauces and the rubs and how people can get their hands on those when they're launched. So we'll wrap back around and do another episode for sure.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. It has been an honor and a pleasure. Feel free to look us up online, on Instagram, on Facebook, like you just said, at UncleRockersBBQ.com. Justin, I look forward to speaking with you again. Hopefully we'll have a lot of good news to speak about the next time that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Dennis. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for listening in, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.